What is up, Frag fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So I'm really excited to be bringing you guys today's video, as this is part 2 to the top 20 Aromatic Fougeres list that I made. If you guys missed the first video, which was fragrances 20 to number 11, I will link that above. That was last week's video. So again, this is part 2. So now we are talking about my top 10 from the top 20. And again, this is ranked. So these are the ones that I really enjoy a lot. Let's go ahead and get into the video. But before we do that, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro, and like I said, this is going to be my top 20 Aromatic Fougeres ranked, and this is part 2. So again, this is fragrances 10 to number 1, so the Fougeres that I really enjoy from my collection a lot. Let's dive into the number 10 spot. Okay, so starting this video off here at the number 10 spot, this one is pretty under the radar in my opinion. I haven't really seen this get much talk. It is coming from a pretty expensive designer line. It's their Privé line, but I do enjoy this one. I did get it for less than half of retail, so that certainly helped. But nonetheless, this is an awesome creamy shaving foam style of Fougere. Actually, one of my favorites out there that are in that particular category under the Fougere umbrella. So this is coming from the house of Bulgari in the La Gem line, and this is Malachios, as you can tell from the green gemstone. Now, the note breakdown on this one I don't find ultra revealing, and that actually goes for the entire Privé line, the La Gem line from Bulgari. They usually feature like 3, 4, 5 notes. This one says there's oak moss, lavender, geranium, guaiac wood, and musk. I do find this one to be more complex than that. I feel like there are some like herbaceous notes in here, and maybe even some mint and stuff like that. But according to the note breakdown, that's what we get. This one, again, it's very creamy, and similar to Rive Gauche, I do find this one fresh and spicy as well. Now, I do actually find this one to be better overall, which I would hope so for the price point that this one brings. I think the creaminess here is coming from the guaiac wood, and then the musk brings kind of a fresh, fuzzy quality as well. The geranium in here brings a very nice icy cooling effect, and the lavender in here, it's very fresh and soapy, and then you do get kind of that green side as well, like I said, from the oak moss. But I do feel like there are more herbs in here like that. I feel like there could be maybe basil and rosemary and stuff like that. A really awesome Fougere barbershop fragrance. This one is one of the cleaner ones. So again, it's like a shaving foam. If you guys want something that smells soapy, fresh, spicy, clean, creamy, this is the one for you if you guys can find it for a good price. Again, the La Gem line, I'm gonna say, is pretty overpriced, but I think if you can get these things discounted, they're very solid pickups. So that's the fragrance starting us off here at the number 10 spot, a really nice shaving foam style of Fougere, again from the house of Bulgari. This is Malachios. Okay, so up next here at the number 9 spot, we have one of the more unique Fougere fragrances. It definitely still qualifies as one and smells like one, but it's doing some stuff quite extreme. As far as the house goes, this is a very popular niche house, although this is not one of their popular fragrances. At least from what I can tell, I don't see this one get much talk. For my personal taste though, this is one of my favorites. So this is coming from the house of AMRA, and it is called Brackenman, and you can see there's a fern on the bottle, so it tells you which style, oh my gosh, a fragrance this is going after. So I'm really enjoying this one a lot currently. This is doing something different while still very much so being a Fougere. This one is on the very extreme end of woody, kind of green, earthy. So it features a lot of spices, a lot of green notes, and then some citruses as well. You get cloves in here, cinnamon, and nutmeg for your spices. So very warm spices, not fresh spices like cardamom. So this does bring kind of a warm, almost holiday feel to the fragrance. You get a lot of woody notes, like I said, such as cypress and cedar, and there is patchouli in here as well. The patchouli is very prominent to my nose, and it's kind of bringing a earthy feel to the fragrance, a very like prominent earthy feel actually, which is why in my opinion this one does kind of go in more of like an earthy and dirty direction. The spices work with that very well, and you do get this nice kind of fresh powdery lavender, although again, it's not really soapy or anything like that. This is not a clean fragrance. There is a blast of citruses when you first spray it on, although those do quickly dissipate. And again, this does turn into a very dark Fougere, but very transportive as well. This one really does smell like you're out in the woods because of that kind of earthy, dirty feeling. And of course, working with the green notes, I think that just makes that even more prominent. So this is a very transportive fragrance, a really solid one, very slept on. I know I've seen in the comments that some of you guys have picked up this fragrance and enjoyed it a lot. That is awesome because I do enjoy this one a lot. I wish it did get more talk, but it is here at the number 9 spot. We have some better stuff to come. So again, here at the number 9 spot, coming from the house of AMRA, this was Brackenman. Okay, so moving on to the number 8 spot, we have a fragrance where if you haven't smelled it, you just look at the bottle and the name, you probably are gonna think this is gonna be a very different fragrance, that it's not gonna be a Fougere. This one is very much so, and it's a very interesting one at that. So this is coming from the house of Memo Paris. This is Russian leather from their Queers Nomads collection. Oh my gosh, so this is a very transportive fougere fragrance, kind of similar to some of the other ones we've talked about. This one takes me to the woods, and it is a snow-covered forest. It is icy, it is freezing, it is very green, maybe a little bit earthy as well. This one does feature lavender as a note, so you do kind of get like, you know, that fresh powdery kind of aromatic feel that lavender gives off, but this one focuses a ton on the herbs and spices in here. You get basil, mint, rosemary in here, there's cypress, I think you get cedar in here as well. There's I think some Gaiac wood even. So this one is very woody, very green, again, very spicy. It does kind of actually have a sweet quality to it as well. It's not just bitter and dry. There is a nice sweetness in here, which I think works really well with the green notes, and it makes it quite interesting. This one, I would say, just comes across a little bit more wearable because of that sweetness, and again, because the lavender really helps out as well. But this one can be quite kind of woody and harsh at the same time, you know, because of all of those different herbs and spices that usually do bring kind of a bitter quality. So you do get that really nice contrast here in this fragrance. Again, the mint in here is very cold, so this really is a cold smelling fragrance. To me, this does smell like I'm out in a snow-covered forest, which Russian leather, you know, a Russian forest like somewhere in Siberia, that really makes sense. So an awesome fougere. Again, this one is not in the soapy clean direction at all. This is in the very much the green side, and this one is a little bit earthy, not as much so as Brackenman from Amouage, but it kind of hints at that as well. A really interesting fragrance nonetheless. Check this one out from the Queers Nomad collection from Memo Paris. I think this is quite a slept on fragrance from that collection. So again, here at the number 8 spot, this is one of my favorite fragrances from the Queers Nomad collection from Memo Paris. Again, this is Russian leather. Okay, so up next we have another soapy style of fougere going in that shaving foam direction. To my nose, this one is a little bit creamy, but not as much so as the previous ones that we've talked about that have been in that shaving foam direction. This one to me is more kind of fresh, soapy, very woody as well. There's not too much spiciness going on here, however. This is coming from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, and this is Masculine Pluriel. And I love the juice color here. The purple look is really nice. Now this is kind of a simpler fragrance. There's really not much complexity here. It's kind of just what you get at face value. You know, it's soapy. Again, it's not too spicy. It is a little bit fresh. There is a woodiness going on here. It's very, very clean smelling. There is nothing earthy or dirty with this one, despite it having patchouli and vetiver, which traditionally those notes can go in a kind of dirty, earthy direction. And to me, for some reason, I do prefer this to, say, like Malakios or At the Barber's, which both of those to my nose are more complex. This one is very simple, but I cannot explain why. I just prefer this for some reason. You guys have to smell this. Of course, I'm never gonna be able to explain a fragrance to you guys perfectly over the camera. I'm doing my best, but you have to get these fragrances on your nose yourself so you can check them out. I can objectively say that yes, this one is simpler, but there is something with it that just really draws me in and I enjoy it a ton. So again, coming from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, this is Masculine Pluriel. Okay, so up next here at the number 6 spot, we have one of the best openings of a fougere that I've ever smelled. Unfortunately, it does change and develop quite a bit, and I'm not as big of a fan of the dry down as I am the opening. Nonetheless, I do like both stages, but the opening is definitely my preference. It could be my favorite fougere if it stuck around a little bit longer. So this is coming from the house of Zahara Parfums, and this is Scandal Parfum Cologne, which, as you guys may know with Zahara Parfum's fragrances, they are very complex. He throws in like 30 plus notes in all of them basically, so there's a lot going on in here. It can be hard to pick out individual notes. What I get from the opening of this is a lot of citrus and then fresh, soapy, powdery lavender with a very spicy quality as well. You get cloves in here and then nutmeg for your spices, and there is some basil and other herbs like that. There's actually mint as well, which to me is kind of a spicy mint. So it is a fresh, soapy, citrusy, kind of spicy opening with the perfect touch of sweetness in here. There is a nice contrast, again, between those like bitter kind of herbs and then also that sweeter side. But as it dries down, the sweetness goes away. You kind of lose that spicy prominence, and it does kind of lose that fresh citrusy touch as well. And it goes in more of just a soapy direction. Again, I really like the opening of this stuff. So I recommend if you guys test this one, do not test on paper because the paper is going to trap that opening and that's all you're going to get. This is one you need to wear on your skin. I do still like it nonetheless though. That is why it is here at the number 6 spot. This is a fantastic fragrance. Again, I just prefer the opening. So again, here at the number 6 spot, that was Zahara Parfum's Scandal Parfum Cologne. Okay, so we are halfway through now here at the number 5 spot, and this, similar to Scandal, has an amazing opening on it. This smells absolutely fantastic. The dry down, I will say, it kind of loses the Fougere qualities it has a lot more so. In the opening, it is very Fougere-like. Still a great fragrance nonetheless. That's why it's here in this list. This is coming from the house of Zahara, and this is Signature Pour Homme. And I think this is my favorite fragrance from Zahara, just the original. This one is great. So you get lavender, myrrh, incense. There's oud in here, some pear, and then sandalwood as well with some other notes. This is a really interesting fougere. From a lot of those notes, the incense, the oud, the myrrh, you might think this is a dark fragrance, and while it certainly is a darker take on the DNA, this thing is not heavy. It's not something that you can't wear in the heat. I think you really can pull this off in the summer. It's almost like he's using a less dense version of these notes. It's like it's more aerated, if that makes sense. You can still pick all of them out. The myrrh is a sweet resin. There is kind of a smoky quality to this, although it's not a super overbearing incense. The oud here is very tame. It is not a skanky oud at all. And the pear brings a beautiful sweetness to this fragrance. The lavender is quite soapy. This one is a soapy fougere, but again, it's like a dark soapy fougere with a prominent sweetness as well. And it is quite creamy, coming from the sandalwood. So it's a really interesting fragrance. You know, there's a reason this thing gets a ton of talk. It is fantastic, and there's no excuse for you guys not to have tried this yet, because you can get a free sample. So if you are interested, go to the Zahara website, get your free sample, check this stuff out. It is amazing. He could easily charge double the price for this fragrance and it would still sell because it is that good. I think what he's asking is very reasonable for what you're getting, because this is an all natural fragrance and it smells like it. It's very high quality smelling, decent performance, and a very unique fougere at that. So definitely one of my favorites. That's why it's here in the top 5. I love this stuff. And again, from the house of Zahara, this was Signature Pour Homme. So up next here at the number 4 spot, we have a somewhat recent pickup of mine. I picked this up about a month ago. Ever since I put my nose on this stuff, it has been absolutely blowing me away. I did try it at Justin's first, and I instantly knew I needed a bottle. This is my favorite fragrance from this house by far. So this is coming from the house of Beach Giza, and it is called Jet Set. And this is a new release. I think it came out May 28th, somewhere around there. And this is a very interesting take on the fougere. This is kind of like a salty, aquatic, tropical fougere, which is really interesting. You don't see that style of fougere basically ever done. At least I've never seen anything like that. So you get a very nice bright neroli orange and then bergamot in the opening. So it is zesty. It does kind of have that powdery, fresh white floral touch to it as well. In the heart, you get sea salt and then shaving soap. And there is some ambergris in here as well with some other interesting notes. This thing is pretty complex. Again, the shaving foam here, or the shaving soap, I should say, it's very noticeable. It is very realistic. It comes across like a shaving soap, not like the Barbasol, like the creamy shaving foam, but it's like a, you know, kind of a bitter soapy smell. And there is this sea salt note in here as well, and I believe he is using real sea salt. This is a very salty fragrance, and it brings kind of an aquatic feel to this as well. I kind of equate this to the smell of being like on the pool, like, or poolside. You know, it kind of has that salty chlorine smell, and I'm not saying this smells chemically. It does not. It is a very natural smelling fragrance, but it kind of just transports me to somewhere warm and poolside, because I'm kind of getting this chlorine touch. Again, very salty, fresh, citrusy, kind of has that white floral touch, very tropical smelling while still being a soapy fougere fragrance as well. So really, really interesting and really, really unique. This is one of my current favorite fragrances in my collection. I'm absolutely obsessed with this stuff right now. Definitely check it out if you guys can. They do have a sample kit of all their fragrances. I definitely recommend you check it out. Try this one and try all of their other fragrances, because all of his fragrances are very, very unique. So currently here at the number 4 spot, one of my current favorite fougere fragrances, again from the house of Beach Giza, this is Jet Set. Okay, so up next here at the number 3 spot, we have another very unique fougere. And yes, I know I've said that a few times in this video already, but truly some of these are very standout and doing their own thing. This is certainly one of them. I have never smelled another fragrance, let alone another fougere like this one. So this is coming from the house of Penhaligon's, and this is Sartorial. Now, if you guys are fougere lovers, but you like sweet fragrances as well, you need to check out this one. Aside from Gravitas from Naughton & Wilson, I think that is the sweetest fragrance here on this list. This is probably the second sweetest. This one features beeswax and then honey as well. So you know you're gonna be getting a very sweet fragrance when you get both of those notes. And to me, they are very, very realistic. They're paired with some aldehydes. There's lavender in here as well. Oak moss, woody notes. There's a bunch of other notes in this fragrance. I'm not even covering like a quarter of them. So a very complex fragrance. Again, to my nose, the beeswax and the honey are the most prominent, and they're very realistic smelling. You do get a small kind of powdery, soapy lavender in here. The aldehydes bring kind of a metallic feel to this fragrance. It kind of has this sharp bite to it, especially in the opening, but it's not off-putting. And then the oak moss brings, again, kind of an herbal green side to this, just like you get in many Fougere fragrances. There's so much going on in this fragrance, though I'm not describing it well enough. This is one you need to try yourself. It is very, very unique. Again, I cannot reiterate that enough. So if you are a Fougere lover and you guys like sweet fragrances as well, check this one out. This is probably gonna be right up your alley. So one of my absolute current favorite Fougere fragrances, and one of my absolute current favorite fragrances in general in my collection, this is Penhaligon's Sartorial. Okay, so we're almost done with the video. Now here at the number 2 spot, this is one where it honestly surprises me how much I like this stuff. I don't necessarily think of myself as a huge fan of this house at this point. I do like their fragrances, that's why I have a bunch of them, but there's other houses that now I'm trying to explore a lot more. But there is just something with this that it just pulls me in. I absolutely am addicted to the way this one smells. This is coming from the house of Creed, and we are talking about Viking. Not the Viking cologne, the new flanker, just the original Viking. This is a much better fragrance in my opinion, and this is a very interesting take on the Fougere. It is a little bit aromatic, but this one comes across quite spicy to my nose, almost a little bit warm smelling, although there is still a freshness to this as well. So you do get pink pepper and then a spicy mint in here, and the pink pepper is kind of a fresh spice. It's usually maybe a little bit creamy as well. You do get a lot of citruses here on the top, bringing that fresh quality I was referring to. And the lavender in here, again, it's very, very soapy in this fragrance. There are some woody notes as well, but this is mostly about the pink pepper, the mint, and then the lavender. And actually, I forgot to mention the rose as well. There is a prominent rose in here as well, and it's not jammy. It is kind of a darker, heavier rose. It's the style of rose that I really do enjoy, and I think it really makes this fragrance what it is. Yes, this may have some similarities to Old Spice, but it is much higher quality smelling, and it is not the exact same thing. So I know that this one kind of gets some hate. You know, people just brag on this for whatever reason, say it's very boring. I do not agree. I think this is the perfect fragrance, and you can wear this in any season. The citruses do make this wearable in the summer, and like all Creed fragrances, this does kind of have a lightness to it, but again, it's kind of a warm, spicy fragrance that does make it very wearable in the cold weather as well. So one of my favorite fragrances in my collection, almost as good as the one at the number 1 spot, which we are about to talk about. So again, here at the number 2 spot, coming from the house of Creed, this was Viking. Okay, so we are finally at the number 1 spot, and longtime viewers of the channel are gonna know what I'm putting here. I've said this many times that this is one of my favorite fragrances in my collection and my absolute favorite Aromatic Fougere. Maybe one day this will be dethroned, but currently this is my absolute favorite. So this is coming from the house of Tom Ford, and we are talking about Beau de Jour. Wow, does this fragrance impress me every single time I smell it. As a side note, I did own the private blend, and that was actually the first version of this fragrance that I smelled, and I see people all the time saying they're different. No, they are not different. They are the same exact formulation. They do not smell any different. I've done side-by-side comparisons between the private blend and this one. Don't waste your money on scooping up an overpriced private blend bottle. Just get this stuff. You're gonna get double the amount of juice for the same price. As far as this one goes, it has actual lavender extract in it. So this is one of the most natural smelling and realistic smelling lavenders of any of the fragrances I've talked about in this video or the part 1 that I did. Additionally, you get a very spicy herbal component coming from rosemary and then basil as well. There is a spicy mint in here as well, which brings a little bit of a briskness, but it is quite spicy. And then you get some amber and woody notes as well. The amber brings a nice sweet quality to this. It's not overly powdery, so this is not a powdery fragrance at all. Again, this one is very lavender heavy, kind of soapy, very herbal and spicy as well. It does kind of have a bite to it, and there is a nice sweet quality to this fragrance as well. It is the perfect Fougere. If I was given the opportunity to tweak things around with this fragrance, I would not do it. Leave it alone. This thing smells amazing as is. So if you guys have not checked this one out from the house and you love Aromatic Fougeres, or if you're curious about what a really nice kind of green, spicy, herbal Aromatic Fougere would smell like, check this one out. Go to a Tom Ford counter. You guys need to check this one out. So again, my absolute favorite Aromatic Fougere currently. I love this stuff. Again, from the house of Tom Ford. Whoops, there we go. This is Beau de Jour. Well, there you guys go. That was fragrances 10 to number 1 from my top 20 favorite Aromatic Fougere fragrances. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly did. Again, we did a top 20 because I do have a lot of Aromatic Fougeres, but it is also one of my favorite, if not my favorite genres in fragrance. So I thought I would give you guys as many as possible to choose from. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video again overall. If you guys did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support. And then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just let me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you have not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.